As always, thank you so much for watching. I'm Andy Knode. I'll see you soon. And just like that, another episode in the can. In the can, meaning it's in the can. I suppose you're probably wondering how I got myself into this predicament. Well, not much to tell. Another day at the office for me. Seems like only yesterday that I began doing these reviews, and it'll probably be tomorrow when I do another one. Or actually it'll be Thursday. I digress. I guess the only thing to do now is to start at the beginning, where it all started, with the title sequence. Hello friends, welcome back to the show. So glad to see you once again. And if you're new here, thank you for joining us. This is the show where we talk about cartoons that we grew up on. If you're a child of the 90s like me, or if you're a new fan of classic cartoons. Classic from the 90s. This is what you're looking for, then you found the right place. So hop below, hit the subscribe button on your way past, hit the thumbs up button, because I'm sure you're going to like what you're going to see as we talk about the Superman episode, The Late Mr. Kent, which originally aired on November 1st, 1997.
And a friend named Clark Kent.
This is really a pretty cool episode. It's a little bit of a different style than what we've seen with Superman the Animated Series in the past, but that's not uncommon for Superman because we've talked about it before. They kind of run the gambit of different styles in each of these episodes, whether it's a monster movie or just an action adventure or kind of sci-fi. But this style is really pretty entertaining and sort of familiar and kind of reminds me a little bit of a Batman style episode. But we'll talk all about it right after our 60-second Brainiac rundown of the episode. I'm going to give you a synopsis of the episode in 60 seconds or less before the Brainiac bomb goes off. Wishful thinking, right? We start off at a funeral for none other than Clark Kent, and Superman is watching on and narrating this whole thing. And then we flash back to how he got to this position. And Clark Kent was doing a story for a man that has been sentenced to death row for murdering somebody that he was stealing a necklace from, and he was just a petty thief. And so as he's talking to him, he's using his Superman skills and going, I think he's telling the truth. So he starts doing a little digging in on his own. He talks to the detective, Detective Bowman, who was on the case, and the detective kind of dismisses it. He goes, oh, this guy's guilty. Let it go. Don't worry about this. And he goes, well, I'm going to dig into it anyway. And he starts doing some research, finds out the guy ordered pizza that night as his alibi. And so he goes to the pizza place. Well, it's 5 years ago. They don't remember, but they give him a bunch of discs to look through. And he goes, it might be on here somewhere. And sure enough, they found the evidence that he had ordered the pizza at about the same time that this murder was committed. So it couldn't have been him. So Clark drives to the mansion of the I couldn't think of the name of the governor. That's what it is. He drives to the mansion of the governor to deliver the evidence, and on his way there, his car blows up and the disc with the evidence on it is destroyed, and he swims away. And unfortunately, some boaters saw this. So now he's got to pretend that Clark Kent is dead, or at least missing, while he solves the rest of this case. So Superman and Lois go back to the apartment to try to dig through some of the evidence, see if there was anything that Clark Kent left behind. And then they find a bomb and it blows up. And then Lois Lane starts suspecting that Detective Bowman is behind it. So she starts questioning him, and he gets frustrated and throws her off the balcony, and Superman swoops in and saves her. And he goes, well, this is pretty incriminating evidence, I guess. And it turns out that the Detective Bowman was actually the person that killed this woman and was trying to frame this thief for that. And that's why he was trying to cover up his tracks. So now it is the morning of the execution, and they don't have enough time to get to the governor. So Superman swoops in and saves the guy from the gas chamber and prints up a story incriminating the Detective Bowman for this. And then we see Detective Bowman in prison reading this, and then he realizes how Clark Kent survived the accident. Backing up. Clark Kent, Superman, this is a big part of the episode. Superman is Superman has to pretend that Clark Kent is dead to save his secret identity. But everybody's mourning this, and obviously have the funeral and things like that. Lois Lane is sad about this, and then so Clark Kent figures out that he could have this. He calls Lois Lane as Clark Kent and tells her that he called Lana Lang instead, and she's the one that saw this, and he climbed ashore and was able to pretend that he was behind that because Lana Lang knows who he is. This is really confusing, and then at the last minute, Bowman is about ready to get executed, and he realizes, oh, that's how Clark Kent survived, was he's actually Superman. Boom, and they pulled the lever. Well, there was no hope of finishing that because I couldn't even remember what happened in the episode. I swear I saw it.
I was beginning to wonder.
I really enjoy these type of openings where we just start right in the middle of the story. We're at a funeral, everybody's mourning, Superman's looking on from a distance, and we realize it's the funeral of Clark Kent. What happened? How did we get to this point? And it immediately engages me into the story, and then we go back and we start explaining this. And it was very apparent very early on that this is pulled from a classic style of filmmaking from the 40s and 50s in the film noir style. One, we have Clark Kent narrating it, which is a very quintessential detective story type.
I was in hot water, all right. But more importantly, how was I going to save Walker without the evidence?
But then we also are starting at the end of the story, which was done in Sunset Boulevard. It was done on DOA, where we see this ending of somebody dying or dead, and then we go back and explain, how did we get to this point? And I just love that style of storytelling, and they execute it really well in this episode.
You gotta believe me. You're my last hope.
And throughout the episode, they really kind of lean into this detective story, which is something I think that they're able to get away with in Superman the Animated Series because the episodes all kind of dance around different genres. We have some that are action, we have some that are sci-fi, and this one is very much a mystery detective story. But they really lean into that in the sense of, sure, we have Clark Kent narrating, which is a classic detective device, but also he kind of plays this lonely investigative reporter that is the only one trying to seek the truth for the injustice done to this one man. And it just really paints this neat picture of Clark trying to do what's right.
Everyone knows he did it, Clark.
Everyone thinks he did it, Jimmy.
The other theme that this episode deals with is the need for Clark Kent. Once Clark Kent is perceived dead, Superman obviously was able to survive the crash, but he couldn't reveal himself because the boats were overhead. Even his parents are suggesting to just be Superman full-time. Don't worry about Clark Kent, just be Superman. Let Clark die. And Superman explains how he needs Clark Kent and how vital Clark Kent is for his well-being. And that's a theme we really don't see with Batman. I mean, yes, there is the dual personalities of Bruce Wayne and Batman, but I think that in Batman is Batman. That's his true self, and he puts on the mask to be Bruce Wayne and pretend to be this playboy millionaire that really doesn't fit his personality. I think Bruce Wayne would love to just be Batman, but he kind of has to maintain a presence as Bruce Wayne. Where on the flip side of the coin, we have Superman, who really needs Clark Kent, and not only he needs him, but all the people that he's developed relationships with. They also need Clark, and so he doesn't want to let Clark go, one for himself, for his own sanity, but also he doesn't want to hurt his friends that are going to be missing their friend Clark Kent.
But I am Clark. I need to be Clark. I'd go crazy if I had to be Superman all the time.
As the story goes on and we see more of Detective Bowman, I think, at least for me watching it now, it's obvious that he's behind this. He's acting very shady. Even the silhouette in the parking deck, you can tell it's him that's watching this, and he appears at all these different places. So I think it's predictable that he is going to be the one behind this. But I think this story is so engaging that didn't really matter to me. I'm not real good typically of guessing the end of movies or TV shows when I watch them for the first time. And often when I watch them the third or fourth time, because I often can't remember what happened in the movie. But this one, it was, in a short episode, and they're kind of spoon feeding it for a younger audience, I think. It's obvious that he's behind that. But that really didn't ruin the episode for me, because the story was so engaging. Just to know that he's behind it didn't solve the question of why and what he's trying to do. And so the way that the story rolled out was just very engaging, very intriguing throughout the entire episode.
Good police work, that's all.
Which I think is proof as to why you don't need just Superman doing a lot of punching. And again, maybe it's just a personal preference, because I do tend to like the mystery detective kind of stories of Batman more than the action adventure of Superman. And so maybe it's not fair of me to say that this episode is better because it's more like Batman, because it's just a personal preference. But I think that for me, what makes me keep coming back to these episodes and come back to Batman episodes is the story.
But it wasn't over yet. Luck still had to play its part.
And this all really wraps up well. I think there's two great endings in this story. One, Superman, Clark Kent, is able to figure out a way of bringing Clark Kent back to life, or explaining away why he wasn't actually dead. And they bring back Lana Lang into that because she knows his secret. And so it makes this neat little dynamic with Lois coming in and being a little jealous that he called Lana Lang and not him.
Yeah, jealous of his endless luck.
But the second ending of showing Bowman figuring out that Superman is Clark Kent, but just a little too late.
He's Superman.
So when it comes time to rank this episode, it's a really solid episode. I love the story. I love the style that they tell this story in. I like that they used a style of storytelling in the film noir detective style that fit the story that they wanted to tell. I think that made sense. And for me, watching this episode now compared to when I was a kid, I tend to gravitate more towards the episodes that have a great story versus the ones that are just action-packed punching things. So for all those reasons, this episode ranks at the number 3 spot of my favorite episodes so far. And again, this is my list, so it feels kind of funny that my number 1 episode features Batman, and here we have this episode that reminds me of a Batman-style episode that ranks at number 3. But that's my taste. That's the type of episodes that I like. So that's why this one falls at that spot. It does fall just below A Brave New World because that one is just so intriguing in just a different level. That kind of Elseworld story, and everything was just kind of justified to tell this completely different, unique story that I think just nudges that one above this episode. But it does beat out Way of All Flesh. That episode is good, and again, it's one of those that I think there was a more of a heart element to that episode, like Batman episodes usually do, that made that one rank that much higher. But this one really, I think because that one was so early in the series, this one really starts to hit its stride and tells a very engaging story in a very unique way.
I think this qualifies.
So let me know. We've explored a lot of different styles of story in the Superman, the animated series. What's your favorite style of stories? Is it the more action-adventure episodes, the more sci-fi, kind of weird out there, the more comedic episodes that we had with Mixel, like the middle album? Or is it these ones, the more mystery-driven, kind of noir-style episodes? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this episode, please click the thumbs up button. If you want to see more episodes like this, just hit subscribe. I have new episodes coming out every Tuesday and Thursday. And next up, we have the episode Heavy Metal. So you don't want to miss that. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'm Andy Knode. I'll see you soon. Check, check, check. Check your booty.